Welcome to another Toromont Podcast. Jim Thornton here. Going to talk to you about rated payloads for wheel loaders today. So a lot of people think, well, rated payloads for wheel loaders. I mean, we just want bucket size.
What's the magic in that?
I suppose you could say that, Brian. Look at guys, a lot of people thinking, bigger's better, just a bigger bucket, that's all I need. If she can pick it up, we're good to go, right? No, there's a little more to it than that. Think of it this way. If you had a ton of feathers and you had a ton of rock, is it going to take up the same space? We all know the answer, no. So therefore, the bucket size on the front has something to play into this. But there's also something else. And you know what? The tractor doesn't know volume. The tractor knows weight. But we don't really talk about that. We just say when the bucket's full, we're good to go. So there's kind of this dichotomy between the two of them. So we got to figure this out. Or at least understand what some of the foundational things are behind that. Bottom line, the objective is try and maximize that available payload.
Oh, that's when the back wheels come right off the ground, right?
No, that is not when the back wheels come off the ground, Brian. Oh. That's what most people think, though, ironically. It's actually one of the most misunderstood things about a wheel loader. Everybody thinks when the back wheels come off the ground, you're good to go. We're getting mouse bang for our buck.
That's right.
That's not, unfortunately, the way she works.
Right.
No. What we have, you know what? There's a lot of science behind it. I don't want to bore everybody with all the details, but there's some of the stuff we need to understand. And one of the biggest metrics is full turn static tipping load, which is engineering speak for basically if the tractor was fully articulated or turned, and you kept adding weight to the front, and at that point, Brian, as you said, when the rear wheels come off the ground. So this full turn static tipping load is when those rear wheels are coming off the ground, when it's fully turned. Why is that important? Because you're going to take 50% of that, and that is typically what your rated payload is. You kind of go 50%.
So 50% of what the tractor will lift when it's fully turned.
That's correct. That is your rated payload. And the reason for that is there's a lot of dynamic forces that are happening when you're in a wheel loader and you're driving around the yard or you're moving around. A lot of different things are happening. Everybody seems to think, well, when the rear wheels come off the ground, you're good to go. That is not the case. There's lots of other things that play into this. In some cases, if you put a rock bucket on the front of it, they're going to derate that slightly because they're looking for durability and reliability in the structures and in the hydraulic system. You want to maximize performance. You want to maximize productivity, but there are some give and takes. So if you kept on loading it, think of it this way. If you always had the tractor loaded with the rear wheels coming off the ground, it's kind of like the equivalent of always driving your car at 6,000 RPM. Yes, you can do it, but something's got to give, or driving 250 kilometers an hour all the time. Yes, you can do it if you can find the traffic here in Toronto to make it happen.
Or the car that'll do it.
Or the car that'll do it. The point is, though, something's got to give, right? There's a give and a take here. So that full turn static tipping load, that is a safety recommendation and a durability recommendation to make sure you stay within those rated guidelines. So some people, they talk about forks. And they say, well, is that exactly the same? And then you know what? The rules with forks are not exactly the same. Because forks, they typically understand, are going to be a much more, I don't want to call it static, but a lot less moving around, a lot less dynamic with a fork. So depending on the ground condition, there's two different rules you can follow with forks. And their forks, you can either have 60% with a really rough terrain, think of like a lumber mill yard or something like that. Or if it's a smooth concrete floor, we call that firm and level, you can use up to 80% of that full turn static tipping load. So those are kind of the real rough ideas you get into when you start talking about what the rated payload is for a wheel loader. But guys, the bottom line is the dealers are there to help, and they can help you whatever your solution is for your material movement. They can help you suggest the right tool. They can help you suggest the right bucket size, depending on what material you're moving, or the right fork. All kinds of different variables here, guys. The bottom line is talk to your dealer. They can help, and there's more to a rated payload than just when the rear wheels come off the ground.
Well, that's good. I've been educated.
At least one of us has been, Brian.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody.